Hey team, Yasin here, and in this training we are going to be going over Module 6 overview. Welcome ladies and gentlemen to the one and only, the infamous Module 6. I am super excited for us to go ahead and dive into this because Module 6 is going to be a super jam-packed module. So what is Module 6? Module 6 is titled Time to Launch. This is going to be the module in which we finally actually launch your remote wellness practice. That's number one. And then number two, this is also going to be the module where you go ahead and complete the final trainings and the requirements for you to be able to go ahead and receive your remote wellness certification. So I was not joking and I was not kidding when I said that Module 6 is going to be super jam-packed. And so what that means is that because of these two goals and because of how jam-packed these two goals are, it does mean that Module 6 is going to be completely different than what you have experienced thus far inside of the program. Unlike any other module that you have gone through so far in this program, Module 6, this module is going to be the most tactical and the most step-by-step. And so what I want to do here for a second is I want to go ahead and get our head above the water, and I want to go ahead and zoom out into clouds mode, and I want to go ahead and really look at where we are in the process of this program so far, right? So you've gone ahead and gone through Module 1, you've gone through Module 2, Module 3, Module 4, Module 5, right? Module 1, we went over the fundamentals and foundations. Module 2, you learned all about the psychology of transformation and the becoming process, which is the foundation of true transformation. In Module 3, you went ahead and learned about the science of transformation and specifically the science of health transformation. Module 4 is where you went ahead and learned a bunch of the foundational coaching skills that were necessary for you to become a coach. And the Module 5 was all about finding your voice, specifically around your training modules, your coaching calls, and around the basics and the foundations around the strategy session. So that's where we are so far, right? Now, you will remember that all of these 5 modules that you have gone through so far are a part of phase 1 of the program, which is all about getting your remote wellness certification, right? And so this is where we are right now. We're in phase 1, and we're at the very tail end of phase 1, which is module number 6. And that's where inside of this module, we're really going to go ahead and launch your remote wellness practice and what we call version 1.0 of your remote wellness practice. And then after phase number 1, and after you've gone ahead and launched, you've gone ahead and gotten a few students inside of your program, you've gone ahead and received your certification, we're then going to go ahead and take this to the next level with phase number 2. Now, the question is, what does all of this mean? What does all of this mean? It means that in this module, we are going to be going ahead and doing what we call your soft launch or your version 1.0 launch. And so this module is going to provide you with the foundations for you to be able to start getting traction and momentum in your career as a remote wellness practitioner. All of the previous content and training prior to this module was all about really building the foundations for you to be able to get to this point inside of this module. And so this is what the process is going to look like inside of this module and the topics that we're going to be covering inside of this module. The very first thing that we're going to be doing inside of this module is we're going to be going over the foundations of your remote wellness practice. We're going to be setting up the name of your remote wellness practice. We're going to walk you through the approaches on how to actually pick your name for your remote wellness practice. We're going to go ahead and walk you through the step-by-step instructions of acquiring and registering your domain name, setting up your email, as well as setting up your logo and all of the templates and swipe files that go along with that as well. From there, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next part of the process, is what we call the glue that holds your system together, which is the foundational software and the foundational tools that are going to allow you to be able to make sure that your remote wellness practice is operating and running. Because remember, you are essentially going to be an online income earner. And so for that, there are going to be tools. And so it is going to be in that step where you go ahead and get access to the software that Remote Wellness Academy is going to take care of the monthly fees and subscriptions on your behalf every single month. So we're talking about the website builder software, the website hosting software, the email marketing software, SMS marketing, sales funnel, call tracking, survey and forms, booking and appointments, CRM, sales pipeline, classroom and course software, workflow automation software, social media planner software. The key software that online income earners typically pay over $1,000 a month, Remote Wellness Academy is going to go ahead and take care of those subscription fees on your behalf, and you're going to learn exactly how that actually works. We've actually gone ahead and made a partnership with the actual companies that are able to provide this software, and so we're going to go ahead and walk you through all of that and how to get you set up properly for that. Okay, so that is going to be the second piece that we're going to walk through inside of this specific module. From there, we're going to go ahead and talk about your branding foundations. We're actually going to be talking about how to be able to create your website on that specific software. So like I said, we needed that foundational software, right? We needed the name, we needed your domain name, we need your support email, we need all of these things set up so that we can go ahead and get to the rest of what's in this side of this module, right? So once we actually have that software set up, you now have website hosting that we're gonna go ahead and take care for you on your behalf. Well, guess what? We can now go ahead and set up your website. So we can go ahead and create your website. And so we're actually gonna be providing for you the templates that are literally going to be as easy as dragging and dropping, because the templates for the website have already been built out for you and are gonna be available for you in your specific software, okay? We're also gonna go ahead and talk about branding and the difference between branding and direct response marketing. You don't know what that is yet. You might not know what that is yet. Don't worry, we're going to talk about that upcoming inside of this module. From there, we're going to go ahead and talk about finance, legal, and accounting foundations, okay? We're going to be talking about setting up your payment processor, learning how to collect payment. We're going to walk you through the legal student agreement that our legal team has already gone through for you. All you got to do is download it and run with it for all of your students upcoming, okay? We're going to go ahead and talk about the basic foundations of the legal corporate structure that you want to have in place, as well as the accounting and the bookkeeping piece of things. Okay, so that is what's going to be upcoming inside of this module for that. From there, we're then going to go ahead and talk about your programs, community, and support. The reason why we've gone ahead and held off on these other two foundational pieces of your transformation program is because all of the text message, SMS, email templates that we have already built out for you that are really going to go ahead and systematize your ability to scale to be able to have support for multiple students at a time, we needed that software that you're going to have set up in order to be able to go ahead and import that into your account. Okay, so we're going to walk you through step by step on how to create your community, when your community is actually going to plug in to your training modules, right? How does all of this connect together, right? And so we needed some of those foundational elements previous to this in order to actually get to that point, and that's why we are going to be talking about that here inside of module number 6. Okay, from there, we're then going to go ahead and get into your students onboarding and management. We're going to walk you through the student intake form, how to manage multiple students, how to keep track of them, the CRM, the system that you're going to use in order to keep track of everybody, right? And so all of the templates that we've already built out for you in regards to that, all you're going to do is just going to go ahead and import them into the appropriate software, okay? So again, this was one of the foundational things. That's why we call it the glue that holds your system together, because it really does require those software pieces for everything to come together properly, okay? From there, we're going to go ahead and talk about pricing your program. We're going to talk about, hey, based off of your previous experience, based off your certainty and conviction level, do you want to go down the practice students route? Do you want to go down the paid students route, right? How should you start off as a beginner so that way you can go ahead and start getting the traction that you are looking for? And then finally, we're going to go ahead and get into connecting everything together, because we've talked about a lot about different pieces, but then we're going to go ahead and have an entire training of how this entire system connects together with the onboarding, with the software, with the foundations, with the website, with your domain, with the email, with all of that. How does all of that come together? We're going to be connecting that together there. And then this is the big one here. It's going to be, are you ready? It's going to be time to slay the dragon. What that means is that it's just a cool term to refer to. You're going to go ahead and go out there and get your first real students. It's going to be time to go out there and get real students. I'm not talking about students who are partners inside of the Remote Wellness Academy. I'm talking about real students outside of the Remote Wellness Academy that you're going to go ahead and walk them through a real 90-day transformation program. And so the certification requirement is for you to go ahead and take 2 real students through a transformation program, and that can be either practice students or paid students. And that is going to be something that we do go ahead and discuss in terms of pricing your program, okay? And then, of course, you are going to make sure that you do record those so that way you can go ahead and submit those recordings for your certification requirements. And then finally, we are going to go ahead and have you actually receive your remote wellness certification. So once you actually submit all of your recordings and all of your work, there's going to be an intake form for that. You go ahead and let us know, hey, here's all of my submission. Our team receives that. And then we go ahead and actually go ahead and award you your remote wellness certification. Okay, so that is what we are actually going through inside of module number 6. So I was not joking when I said that it is tactical and it is jam-packed. All of the previous modules, all of the previous education and skills that you have been building thus far in this program have all been leading to this culmination, to this peak here at the end of phase number 1, which is module 6. But what this also means is that All of what we are going to be talking about in module number 6 is about the foundations that are required in order for you to actually launch. We are not going to be talking about all of the details that you will ever need in the history of your remote wellness practice, period. Okay, so that's why I want to go ahead and make clear what we are not going to be going into in depth inside of this module. Okay, I want to make this extremely clear. The goal of this module is to give you the foundational basics so that way you can go ahead and do number 1, your version 1.0 launch of your remote wellness practice, and number 2, get your remote wellness certification. Okay, so all of the topics that we're going to be going over inside of module 6 are going to be in order to serve these 2 objectives. Okay, and so this has ultimately been the objective of phase 1 of this program, was to really lead to this point where you can have your version 1.0 launch. Now, what this means is that inside of module 6, we will not be able to dive into topics around things like, hey, what are the functions of a business? How is a business structured so that way it can be profitable? What are the various different business models that are proven successful with a remote wellness practice, right? How to actually get clients and students who I don't know, right? Cold traffic, strangers, right? What do I do with my marketing, right? How do I actually do my marketing? What are the different marketing offers and price points that I can actually run with my promotion, right? How do I actually run ads? What is the step-by-step, click-by-click of how I'm going to run Instagram ads? How am I going to run YouTube ads? How am I going to run Facebook ads, right? How do I actually get clients and students from around the world who are strangers to me, who are cold traffic, okay? What are the different types of marketing that I could do? Organic versus paid versus referral versus affiliate, right? How does all of that work? And how am I going to utilize those inside of my remote wellness practice? How am I going to handle sales objections, right? What if somebody tells me, hey, I need to think about it. I need to talk to my spouse, right? How am I going to be able to do my accounting and my bookkeeping so that way I can file my taxes? How am I going to go ahead and keep my entire remote wellness practice organized and the operations around it so that way I can start bringing on team members? How am I going to be able to scale to be able to get to consistent $10,000 a month incomes, right? How to be able to track the data inside of my remote wellness practice so that way I can have stability. All of these are different topics that are related to income and business training. So what I'm going to go ahead and emphasize is that here in module 6, we will not have the ability to be able to go deep into these topics. Yes, we're going to touch on the foundations of some of these topics, but we won't be able to go ahead and go deep into them. Why won't be able to cover all these topics in this module? Well, the answer to that is simply because of the fact that there are entire modules in this entire program that you are in right now that are going to answer those questions in phase number 2, right? There's an entire second part of this program that's going to answer those questions. When we talk about the game of money, we talk about the game of sales, we talk about the game of marketing, the game of operations, the game of accounting, legal, and finance, the proven predictable scaling, right? What we are talking about here is that these are entire modules. And at this point, you know the difference between a module and a training, right? A module has multiple trainings inside of it. And so we can't just make, hey, one training for strategy session and then be setting, oh, okay, yeah, hey, you know everything that there is to know about sales. You got to be able to have an entire module on sales that is going to serve you for the rest of your life. We have literally spent over hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars and decades worth of combined experience in multiple domains of income and business that is going to be delivered to you in phase number 2. That's not going to happen from just one training. And so that's why we're going to have literally entire modules to cover a lot of those questions and many more questions related to income and business. And so I'm going to go ahead and emphasize this. It's not possible to answer all of these questions in just a few sentences, right? That's why there's an entire journey, an entire process, an entire program being able to answer these things. It's not going to happen at the snap of a finger, okay? And so what does all of that mean? What that means is that different RWA students at this point in the program are going to have different speeds by which they are going to be going through the program. It means that for some RWA students, what we go over inside of this module here in module number 6 is going to be more than enough for now. For other RWA students, what we go over inside of this module is not going to be enough, and they're still going to feel like, oh man, we're still going very slowly, right? Because at this point in the program, there are some students who are like itching and clawing, and really they're like, I really want to go ahead and start working with real students right now. And then there are some other students who are ready to go ahead and start getting full pay clients themselves, full pay students themselves, but they're like, okay, you know what? I'm, taking at a good pace. And then there's other students who are still dealing with imposter syndrome and need more time finding their voice, right? And many other different types of students who are getting to this point in the program. And so guess what? All of the above types of students who are maybe feeling that this is going too slow, feeling that this is more than enough, all of these are completely fine and acceptable to be at as an RWA student, regardless of how you are feeling. Why? Because remember what we talked about all the way back in module number 1? We talked about setting your foundations and the 5 success tips, right? We talked about the difference between adult learning and childhood learning. Because in adult learning, what's happening is that each student is bringing to the table their own life experiences and their backgrounds. And so what this means is that each student is going to have a different background experience on how fast this stuff clicks for them, and for them to be able to start making income as a remote wellness practitioner. For some students, because of their various different backgrounds before RWA, what we cover in Module 6 is going to be enough for them to really go ahead and click inside of their mind. Everything that we go over in terms of just the soft launch is going to be enough for them to be like, okay, I get the point. I understand how this is happening. I have the foundational elements that I need in order for me to go ahead and get up and running, right? For those students with different background experiences, they will be able to go ahead and start taking action immediately with the foundational pieces in Module 6 and really start making money, and then really be able to further get even more momentum with all of the foundational income and business training that we talk about in phase number 2. Okay, so for some RWA students, just the foundations that we cover in this module are going to be enough for them to be able to get to $100,000 a year, right? Because of the fact that they just needed the final pieces put together for them because they already have past experiences with similar types of careers. That might be some students, okay? That's not going to be all students. It's going to be some students. For other students, the foundational pieces that we cover inside of this module are going to be just enough for them to start getting their first full pay clients. Maybe they're not consistent in it yet, but they're like, you know what? I could get my first full pay client because all the pieces have come together for me now in Module 6, okay? And then there are other students. For other students, the foundations that we cover inside of this module are going to be just enough for them to actually get started with only their practice students, and that is it. And there are so many other types of paths that RWA students are going to have from the learning that they are getting from phase number 1, okay? And so I want to make this 100% clear. Any and all of these potential paths for you in this module are perfectly fine and acceptable, okay? This does not mean that something is wrong or broken with you as a student if you are not doing it the way another RWA student is doing it. If the foundational elements, the level 1 foundations that we set here in module 6 are not enough for you to be able to literally in your mind click and say, okay, boom, that's all I needed. I now understand how I'm going to be able to generate $100,000 a year with this. I now understand how I'm going to be able to get my first full pay clients and first full pay students with this. If you are not in that boat, which is only going to be a minority of students, a very small percentage of students who come into the RWA program, who once they go through the foundations, level 1 foundations in module 6, that is going to click to them at that level. If you are not one of those students, it's okay, because everyone has their own backgrounds coming into this, okay? So I want to urge you, do not get stuck in comparison mindset. Remember the infinite game? We talked about this. You do not want to get stuck trying to play the comparison game with another student, because you will absolutely lose that game, okay? Because of the fact that life and business is an infinite game. Everyone is only competing against themselves. And so your background and your current skill set are completely different from another student's background and another student's skill set. So you don't want to get stuck comparing, okay? You might just need more skills, more knowledge and reps with the training that we're going to have in phase 2 in order for it to really click for you at that level, in order for you to be like, oh, okay, now I see how I'm going to be able to take this and make $100,000 a year. Now I see how I'm going to be able to get my first full pay clients. Right now, the level that I'm at with the level 1 foundations at module 6, the only thing that I could see was how to get my practice students. Okay, so be it. And that's okay because that's the level that you're at right now. And so I want to urge you not to compare, okay? Because you have to keep in mind, there is literally an entire second part of this program that is going to give you everything that you need in order to be successful inside of the income and the business training, okay? So you got to give yourself grace. It is a process and you are going to be learning more as you go through this process, okay? So just make sure that you don't get stuck judging yourself. Make sure that you don't get stuck comparing yourself to others. Do not judge your chapter 1, your chapter 2, your chapter 3 to somebody else's chapter 9, 10, or 11, okay? Everyone is on a different journey because of their individual backgrounds, and for some students, it's going to take a little bit longer for it to really click for them, and guess what? That is okay. The only person that is setting up those expectations is yourself. And guess what? Those expectations actually hurt you more than they help you because of the fact that they actually make you demotivated. They make you not want to continue with the process. And then they make you have a lot more shiny object syndrome. And then you're more likely to think that the grass is greener on the other side rather than remembering that the grass is greener wherever you water it. And so rather than being busy judging yourself and beating yourself up because you're on chapter 1 or chapter 2 and you're comparing yourself to somebody else's chapter 9 or chapter 10, well, guess what? You can get busy putting in the work so that way you can also get to chapter 9 or chapter 10, okay? And so this is so very important for you to understand properly, and it's so absolutely critical to make sure that you are not judging yourself. And so the bottom line of all of this is that if you need help and support understanding more topics related to income and business in order for you to feel more certain and confident before deciding to go out there and make $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 for yourself using what it is that you've learned, don't worry, it's coming. All of those topics, all of those questions and more are going to have their own modules in phase 2 of the program where we really go ahead and flesh out all of that, okay? Now, the follow-up question that will come after that warning that I just went ahead and delivered is, okay, Coach Yasin, does that mean that I now have to wait to get through the entire program and to get through all of phase number 2 in order for me to actually go ahead and launch, in order for me to actually start taking on real students and make an income doing this? Well, the first thing I want to point out is that no, you're going to have real students starting inside of this module. Whether you decide to have those be practice students or paid students is going to be up to you, and we're going to talk more about that in an upcoming training inside of this module, okay? But when we talk about being able to actually create an income for yourself of consistently $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month, $100,000 a year, right? Does that mean that you have to wait for the entire program in order to be able to actually get to that point? The answer is absolutely not. Phase 2 of this program is actually going to be structured completely differently than phase 1, right? Because right now, as you've been going through phase 1, right, you've gone through module 1, module 2, module 3, right? What it was more of a linear program, right? It was where we were really building your foundations, okay? Versus phase 2 of the program is going to be more of a library. And so each module in phase number 2 is going to be jam-packed with the latest and most effective tools and strategies within the different domains of income and business. And so unlike in phase number 1, where you were kind of like, okay, I got these action steps, I got to go through them in linear fashion, I got to follow the instructions, I got to go training by training. What's going to happen is that phase 2 is actually going to require for you to take real world action along with the trainings, okay? So you can kind of think of phase 2 more of like a reference library. When you have a certain problem with your income, what you're going to do is you're going to go in and you're going to say, cool, you know what? Right now I'm struggling being able to go ahead and attract more people to jump on strategy sessions with me, okay? So that's a marketing issue. Well, guess what you're going to do? There's going to be an entire toolkit inside of the game of marketing that is going to be discussing all of the various types of marketing that can exist, the levels of marketing when you get to different revenue levels, how you got to change the marketing up, right? And so you're going to actually go directly to the specific training that you need in order to fix that problem. You're going to go ahead and get the solution, learn the skills for that. Remember, knowledge times reps. And then you're going to go back to making the income and the impact that you need to. And then later on, you're going to have a different problem. You might, after fixing the marketing problem, have a sales problem. Then you're going to have to jump into the game of sales and work on your sales and get to that to a certain level, okay? And then after that, you're going to have an operations problem. And then after that, once you started making a lot of money, you're going to have to start working on your accounting, legal, and finance. And so this entire phase 2 is not just a, hey, linear kind of thing that I go through like phase 1 was. It's something that is more of a reference library, okay? Because phase phase 2 is really what is going to allow you to absolutely blow the roof off of your remote wellness practice and take all of this to the next level. Because the thing is that all of business, it does not matter what type of business it is, all of business works like a pipeline, okay? What it works like is that there's a faucet that is required in order to get attention. Once you actually get attention, you then go ahead and take people over to the next step, which is helping them decide whether or not they want to work with you. And then step number 3 is actually delivering on the promise and the product that you promised, right? And so once you learn how to be able to turn the faucet on and get the leads on demand, which is going to be the game of marketing module, okay? And then you know how to actually help those people decide to work with you, which is the game of sales. And then you can actually deliver on the promises that you make, which is what we talked about all in phase number 1. Truthfully, there is no ceiling to the income and impact that you can make inside of your remote wellness practice, okay? And so that's what we talk about when we talk about phase 2, really unlocking that for you, okay? So now the question, going back to the original question, is, does that mean that I have to wait in order to get through the entire program and phase 2 in order for me to launch and start taking on real students and start making an income doing this? No. You can go out there and just with what it is that you put together in module 6, you can go out there and start taking massive action. And then depending on your current or previous skills, you can start making an income for yourself, okay? But and here's the big but here, okay? is that if you are waiting to have questions answered, like, hey, what are the functions of a business? How is the business going to be structured so it's profitable? I don't know how to be able to even attract anybody for strategy sessions. I don't know all of the different price points. I need to be able to run ads first. I got to be able to, get clients and students who I don't know, right? If all of these are prerequisites for you before you feel comfortable enough to be able to go out there and make an income as a remote wellness practitioner, then yes, you are going to be the type of student who is going to have to go through phase 2 of the program before you are comfortable being able to make a consistent income for yourself. However, if you are in a pinch and want to start taking massive action and are all right with making some mistakes because of the fact that you haven't yet gone through phase 2 of the program, then by all means, please go out there and take what it is that you learn from module 6 and the kind of bow tie that we hand you as you get your remote wellness certification. And you can go out there and start making an income for yourself as a remote wellness practitioner, right? By the end of module 6, you're going to have your certification. You're going to know how to be able to actually coach people within the domain of remote wellness specifically for health, right? But here's the thing. If you decide to do that, we ask for you that you do not ask the RWA coaches on the coaching calls in the office hours questions that are related to parts of the program that you have not gone through yet, okay? Because you are deciding to take massive action before you've actually gone through phase number 2. You're taking massive action on things that you are innovating on yourself without actually having gone through the training, which is fine. You have permission to do that, right? But I'm just giving you the heads up right now, is that if you show up on coaching calls or office hours and you ask questions regarding those more advanced topics that we're going to be covering in phase number 2 of the program, is that you are going to start getting a consistent reply back, which is, hey, don't worry, it's coming when you get to phase number 2, okay? So if you are okay with that and you are ready to go ahead and take massive action, then please, by all means, go for it, okay? Because module 6 is going to give you the foundations that you need in order to be able to go out there and take the massive action if you so decide that you want to do that. And you can kind of learn as you go if you decide that's what you wanted to actually do, right? And then for everyone else who's kind of taking this journey as they go along, for everyone else, module 6 is going to be the foundational basics for you to go out there and get your version 1.0 of your remote wellness practice launched, and for you to be able to go out there and get your remote wellness certification. Okay, so we completely understand that students, especially by the time that they get to module 6, there's going to be quite a few different paths that different students might decide that they want to go with. But I did just want to go ahead and warn you, depending on the type of student that you are, if you're like, hey, based off my previous skill set, based off my previous experience, I'm ready to go ahead and take the foundations that I have from this 1.0 launch, and I'm going to go ahead and just go full on launching. That's completely up to you. But again, do not confuse other students who may not be at that level of you asking questions that are going to be up and coming answered in upcoming trainings and modules. And so I just want to go ahead and make sure that that is absolutely clear, so that way students aren't getting all confused as to what the path going forward is. And if you just want to follow the program as it is outlined, then by all means, you're going to be getting the foundational basics. You're going to be doing your version 1.0 launch. You're going to have your practice students. You're going to get your remote wellness certification, and then you're going to get through phase number 2. And that's typically how it is outlined, but we do have the other paths for different types of students as well. Okay. And then from there, well, as we kind of close out this training, I want to go ahead and talk to you about your engagement question for this specific training, which is number one, what are your thoughts on what we are actually going to be covering inside of Module 6, right? Everything that we've gone ahead and gone over inside of this specific training. Number two, do you have any questions about the process so far? And do you have any questions about what is not going to be covered inside of Module 6? And then finally, do you have any questions about Phase 1 or Phase 2 in general? I know we went ahead and kind of zoomed out into the clouds mode and really looked at what's upcoming in the program. So let us know if you have any questions in regards to that, as well as your thoughts on what it is that we are talking about. Do you understand why we went ahead and structured the program the way that we did? Are you understanding of it? Are you appreciative of it? Let us know your thoughts so that way we can make sure that we are hearing what it is that you are thinking, okay? Now, a quick note in regards to asking questions. I want to go ahead and make this clear so that way everybody's on the same page about this. Number one is that if you are asking general questions that are not about a specific training, okay? Just a general question that is not about a specific training and that is not about your specific student account, right? If it's about tuition, if it's about that kind of stuff, make sure that's sent over to the support email, okay? However, if it's general questions that is not about a specific training, then you can go ahead and create a new post in the student community for those, okay? And then number two is that if you have questions that are about a specific training, what you want to do is you want to first check to make sure, you want to check the rest of the comments on that specific student community training post to see if a student has already asked a similar question about that specific training. So what we're doing is we're keeping the student community organized, and any questions that you have about a specific training, you're putting them and commenting them on that specific post. So that way other students can see the other comments and see if a different student had questions about that specific training, okay? Now, if you find that a student has not asked the same question you want to ask, then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and ask your question in the comments of that student community training post. And then you want to be sure that you actually go ahead and tag the Remote Wellness Academy coaches so that way we actually get a notification, okay? If you just ask a question and it's in this massive paragraph, okay, we might end up missing it. So you want to make sure that you tag the RWA coaches. And then even with the tag, we still might miss the question because sometimes Facebook is iffy on notifications and we still might miss it. And so if you do have a question that does not get an answer inside of the comments of that training post, you want to go ahead and make sure that you let us know via the support channel. How? You want to go ahead and click on that little icon at the bottom right of your student classroom. And when you click on that, it's going to go ahead and have a message field where you go ahead and message us through that, and our support team will be able to get back to you. So you can go ahead and reach out to RWA support using the chat icon at the bottom right of your classroom, or alternatively, you can go ahead and shoot an email to support@remotewellnessacademy.com, and you can just let us know, hey, I had a question on, XYZ training, and can I get one of the coaches to really look at it and get that answered for me, right? Obviously, be polite, be respectful. We want to be polite and respectful to you as well. Very important notes as we go ahead and talk about that, okay? So that is the engagement question. That is how to actually ask questions inside of the student community in regards to these. And so in terms of your action steps for this specific training, very simple, very straightforward, as they typically are for these module overviews. Number one, make sure that you go ahead and watch the training in full. And then number two, go ahead and complete the engagement questions for this specific training, the ones that we went ahead and talked about above, okay? And so this has been the Module 6 overview. I want to go ahead and remind you that you definitely got this. You've definitely made it this far. And I want to go ahead and remind you that you are doing absolutely phenomenal. You're doing great, okay? The biggest thing to remember is to keep on showing up to this training portal. Keep on showing up to the RWA classroom, no matter what, okay? Despite the fear, despite the doubt, despite the uncertainty, regardless of how you feel, just keep on coming back to this classroom and keep on pushing through. Because remember, we say this a lot. You may not be ready now, but through the process, you will become ready. Through this process, you will become someone who might have struggled with imposter syndrome, who wasn't sure of themselves, who wasn't sure if they could actually make an income doing this, to actually becoming somebody who can charge $1,200, $2,400, $3,600 plus for your transformation programs, okay? But first, you got to make it through the training classroom, so make sure that you keep on going, and I'm super excited for you to actually get through Module 6 and get the version 1.0 of your remote wellness practice launched. And so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Module 6, welcome, and let's dive right